much. I'm Jaimie Monahan, and it's so wonderful to be here in Japan and great to be here at Akita International University. But a year ago, around this time, I was in a very different place. I was on a small inflatable boat about 2 kilometers from the nearest land and about 1,000 kilometers away from the nearest city. We were off the coast of Antarctica, truly the edge of the earth. It was a beautiful day, and we were dressed in warm, comfortable clothing. But I was about to take off my parka, strip down to just a textile swimsuit, cap, and goggles, and jump into the freezing cold ice water with the goal of swimming for a mile amidst the snow and the icebergs. So, very validly, you may be asking, why would anyone want to do this voluntarily? Well, have you ever heard the expression, do something every day that scares you? This is why. I strongly believe that pursuing difficult personal challenges and doing things that are scary to you can improve your life in almost every way. It's not about taking risks or thrill-seeking. It's about just getting out of your comfort zone and opening the door to the best version of yourself. So, just a little bit about my personal background. I've been a competitive swimmer my entire life, and I learned to swim almost before I could walk. I spent a lot of time before the age of 18 swimming hundreds of hours in a small chlorinated 25-meter rectangle. I swam millions of meters and spent up to 2 hours a day with my face in the water, staring at the black line on the bottom of the pool. This was a pool with a clear direction and a well-published roadmap. I felt comfortable and even confident in the pool, but the open water was a different story. When I was a child on a family trip to the beach, I was playing by myself in the ocean when suddenly a rogue wave came and knocked me over. I held my breath for what felt like forever as I tumbled around and finally got my feet below me and my head above the water. Then I was able to breathe fresh, clean air, but I was really shaken. This was scary, but it taught me a healthy respect for the open water and the wilderness of the ocean. After university, I decided to dive into a different challenge and begin my professional career. I worked long hours around the clock to learn a whole new set of rules and professional means and norms. But after a couple of years of working, I was feeling comfortable and no longer doing things that scared me. So I decided to jump back into athletics. I ran marathons, did triathlons, and even started open water swimming. My first official open water swim was in the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon in San Francisco. This was an amazing swim and a great start, and so thrilling to jump off a huge ferry boat with other swimmers, hit the deep green waters of the San Francisco Bay, be immersed in the waves, and view the skyline while swimming. I was definitely hooked. From that initial 2-kilometer swim from Alcatraz to the mainland, I built up gradually and developed my comfort by doing 5-kilometer, then 10-kilometer, then 20-kilometer swims. Then I signed up for something truly scary, the English Channel. The English Channel is arguably the world's most iconic and famous marathon swim. And it terrified me, not just because of the long distance of 30 kilometers between England and France, but also because of the cold water, strong currents, big waves, and heavy boat traffic there. But this motivated me to train hard and address the challenge as well as I possibly could. During my English Channel swim, I was swimming hard for 10 hours, and I was almost there, just over a kilometer to making land and finishing the swim. Then, all of a sudden, I was swept back out into the channel by the change of currents, just as easily as I was rolled over by that rogue wave years ago. But I put my head down, kept on swimming, and swam for 6 more hours until I finished the swim. Now, can you imagine swimming hard for 10 hours, being almost there, and then having to swim for 6 more hours? It was definitely a huge lesson in strength and focus and determination for me. But to this day, I still look back on that challenge and the strength I mustered. And whenever I approach difficult situations, I think of that time and I know I can do it. After the English Channel, I continued to pursue new, scary, and difficult challenges. I swam all over the world and did swims in some of the most beautiful and extreme landscapes on Earth. I did swims up to 92 kilometers long and 33 hours nonstop in duration. For these, I received awards from the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame and Women of the Year. But this didn't stop me. I wanted to do more, and I just kept on going. Then, in 2014, I was researching a personal vacation to Finland to see the Northern Lights. At the same time, I received an email from something called the International Winter Swimming Association, and I was intrigued. I started to look online at these videos of swimmers jumping into freezing cold water in pools cut out of frozen lakes and rivers, swimming in this water and coming out with a huge smile on their face. It scared me, but I knew I had to do it. I started training year-round throughout the winter in my home of New York City. And walking into that cold water every single time was so scary and difficult. At times, it felt nearly impossible to get in. But I kept on going, learned to control my breathing, and learned that if I took it slowly, it was not as bad as it might sound. And after the swim, I had a feeling of such well-being. Then, at the championships themselves, the feeling was even more exhilarating. To be surrounded by groups of fellow swimmers from all around the world, pursuing our hobbies and passion, it was amazing. We cheered each other on, raced in the ice, and then afterwards celebrated together. It was truly a life-changing experience. After that, I decided to attend a winter swimming festival in Argentina with another international group of swimmers. We swam in downtown Buenos Aires in the river, holding all of our country's flags together, then toured the Mendoza wine region and swam in the beautiful lakes there. At the end, we even did a race in front of the iconic Perito Moreno Glacier, which was an amazing experience. Then, at the end of that trip, I celebrated my birthday with all of my new friends, and everyone sang happy birthday to me in 8 different languages, which was so special. From there, I did as many events and festivals in winter swimming as I was able, and when the association announced their first World Cup challenge, I made it a personal goal that I would do every event of the series and participate in every race at each event. This was a little scary, both in terms of the travel involved and also the physical challenge of it all. Sometimes we had up to 8 races in a day, getting in and out of that freezing ice water. It was tough. Sometimes at the end of the day, I was shaking uncontrollably from hypothermia. But still, the benefits outweighed the downsides. Then, in the final event of the series at the World Championships in Siberia, the water was so cold, the organizers were not able to keep the ice clear of the pool because it kept continually freezing. So as we raced, we actually received cuts on our faces and arms from swimming in the water. Definitely difficult to get in and do this, but again, the things that I learned about myself and the things I saw throughout that challenge were just amazing compared to the challenge that I took on. In the end, it was great to be awarded the World Cup for the inaugural series, but that was really just the icing on an already very delicious cake. After doing these shorter winter swimming events, I had a taste for it and wanted to go longer. So I challenged myself just after swimming in Antarctica for a short distance the first time and running a marathon on the continent. I headed up above the Arctic Circle to a place called Murmansk, Russia, to compete in the first International Ice Swimming Association's World Championships. And there I did a 1-kilometer swim that was twice as long as any distance I had ever swum in the ice. It was a great challenge, and I enjoyed it, so I wanted to tackle something even more difficult, more scary, and longer. The next goal I set for myself is something called an ice mile. And this is a 1,609-meter swim in water below 5 degrees Celsius. I did my first ice mile, very appropriately, in the beautiful country of Iceland, and really enjoyed it. I decided I wanted to do more ice miles and set a goal of doing something to try to be the first person to complete something called the Ice Sevens Challenge. Now, this was a challenge modeled on the classic mountaineering Seven Summits Challenge, where climbers would attempt to climb the highest peak on every continent in the world. Similarly, the Ice Sevens Challenge consisted of doing an ice mile in various continents and included a polar ice mile and one called an Ice Zero Mile, which is an ice mile in water not just below 5, but below 1 degree Celsius. This was an amazing year, and I planned my season to include ice miles in North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania, and included an Ice Zero Mile and a polar ice mile. The most beautiful swim was actually in New Zealand in the Iraqi Mount Cook National Park. It was thrilling to swim in front of the beautiful Tasman Glacier, and the place was just stunning. The coldest swim was actually back in Siberia in December. The air temperature there was negative 30 degrees Celsius, and the water just below zero. It was incredibly difficult and challenging to do, but in the end, I became the first female Ice Zero swimmer, and that air temperature of negative 30 degrees is still the coldest recorded air temperature for an ice mile swim ever. But probably the most rewarding experience of this journey was actually in a little town called Tromsø, Norway, above the Arctic Circle and very close to the North Pole. There, unlike the other swims that I had completed mostly by myself on personal expeditions, I joined a group of friends all looking to do their polar ice miles. We worked hard together, we supported each other, and in the end, we celebrated with each other under the northern lights with a night swim, and the aurora borealis blazed green against a completely blackened sky, and it was just such a special moment being with friends in this amazing place. Because the Ice Sevens Challenge had never been accomplished before, at the end of this endeavor, I was actually presented with a Guinness World Record, but truly the real reward of the experience was all of the places that I was able to see and all of the things I would have been able to do along the way. After this personal challenge, I thought a lot, not just reflecting on the experience, but also thinking about what I wanted to do next. I thought a lot about it, and I realized that even though I had completed the challenge as defined, I still wanted to do at least one additional ice mile. I had done a polar ice mile at the North Pole, but I also wanted to do one in the southern region, back in Antarctica. So I started to research, I reached out to different organizations, and before too long, I was able to have a spot on an expedition ship heading to Antarctica. There was just one problem. It was the exact same week where I had committed to attending the World Championships for winter swimming in Tallinn, Estonia. I was really looking forward to attending this event. I had trained for over a year for it and really wanted to look to reunite with a lot of friends there. And it was scary for me to kind of go off on my own and pursue something that was a bit off the beaten path and a different road. But I decided to do the thing that scared me, and I headed down to Antarctica. We departed from the southernmost tip of South America, rounded Cape Horn, and went through the treacherous Drake Passage. We sailed for 2 days on the ship until we reached the coast of Antarctica. Once we landed there, we started to plan the swim. We met with the expedition leader, the ship's doctor, and the local support staff to talk about the swim. Then, finally, the weather went in our favor, and it was time to swim. Which brings me back to where we started, on a small boat, floating off the coast of Antarctica, getting ready to jump into that freezing cold water. As we headed to the start, I was almost hypnotized by the water. It was so silvery and clear, like liquid mercury. We got to our landing spot. I took off my parka, stepped to the edge of the boat, and jumped right in. As I hit the water, I started swimming immediately. And once I did, I knew I had absolutely made the right decision. The water felt clear, calm, and so special, this mix of both salt water and clear water runoff from the glaciers. I looked at my team. I was never alone. They smiled at me and counted up the number of meters that I had done and then down to the meters I had left. With just 200 meters to go, I was joined by a group of penguins who swam with me for the final meters of the swim. It was amazing. After completing the ice mile there, we were relaxing that evening in a hot tub on the top deck of the ship. The warm water felt great against the cold air, but then all of a sudden we started to hear these strange but familiar sounds. We looked down to the water and saw a team of whales circling the boat, blowing bubbles and breathing. It was an amazing moment and one that I never would have experienced had I not decided to do what scared me. So this is the idea, the message that I want to share today. Do what scares you, whether that's pursuing a difficult project academically, going to study abroad in an unfamiliar place, or just bringing some creativity to whatever you decide to do. Don't let fear hold you back from pursuing your passions. What I'd like to ask today is, think about it. What is something that scares you? And I urge you, whatever it is, dive into it. From the bottom of the ocean, dive right in.